I discovered my wife was cheating with her boss, and after her sudden death in a car crash, I found the will leaving her $750, $0 to him. Now he's trying to claim our house and half my retirement savings, and I have no idea how to fight it. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife of 10 years turned out to be nothing but a lying, cheating bitch. Honestly, it all started with little things, small signs that I brushed off because I wanted to believe she was still the woman I married. But then came the bombshells, the sudden shocks that made my stomach turn and my blood run cold. It all began about 6 months ago. Sarah, my wife, was always a bit of a drama queen, loud, bitchy, always ready with a lie to get her out of trouble. She'd tell me she was working late, then I'd find her. Text to her boss, Mark, late at night. I noticed her phone was always glued to her hand, hiding messages and calls even when she was in the bathroom or out of sight. She'd brush it off, call me paranoid, say I was overthinking things, but I knew better. I could feel it in my gut. Something was off. Then the signs got worse. She started coming home later, smelling like perfume I didn't recognize, her clothes often disheveled. She'd snap at me if I asked about her whereabouts, call me suspicious, accuse me of being paranoid. I didn't want to believe it, but I kept digging. I installed a keylogger on her phone, stupid, I know, but I had to know the truth. And what I saw made my blood boil. One night I caught her mid-text with Mark talking about a weekend getaway, just the two of them. That was the final straw. I looked through her messages and pictures. She was screwing her boss, no doubt about it. They'd been at it for months, sneaking around, lying through their teeth. She told me she was working late, going out with friends, but all along, she was cheating on me. With a man I used to respect at one point. The realization hit me like a truck. My wife, the woman I loved and trusted, was screwing her boss behind my back. I confronted her the next morning. I was furious, shaking. I told her I knew everything. Her face went blank for a second, then she started crying, acting all innocent like I was the crazy one. You don't understand, Mike, she said. It's just sex. It doesn't mean anything. Mark's just a friend. You're overreacting. You're jealous because I'm successful and he's the only one who appreciates me. She lied, of course. That's what she was good at, lying her way out of everything. I demanded she tell me the truth, and she kept insisting it was just sex, just a fling, and that I was being paranoid. But I was. I knew the truth. I saw the messages, the photos, and I felt betrayed on a level I can't even put into words. I had built my whole life around her, our house, our savings, my retirement fund, everything. And now I found out she'd been cheating, lying, and probably planning to leave me for Mark. It was like my entire world was falling apart and I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. That night I couldn't sleep. All I kept thinking about was how she'd lied to me, how she'd been screwing her boss for months while pretending to be the perfect wife. I was angry, hurt, and a little numb. I kept replaying her words in my head. It's just sex. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, right. Nothing about that felt like just sex. It felt like a betrayal of everything I believed in. And the worst part, I didn't even know if she loved me anymore, or if she ever did. The next day I started looking into our finances. That's when I found the will, the one she had hidden away, probably thinking I'd never find it. It left her $750, $0, all to Mark. Not a dime for me. Not a penny for the house, the retirement, nothing. Just all to her boss. That's when it hit me. She was planning to leave me, maybe even for good, and she was already making sure he'd get everything. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut again. How could she do this? How could she lie, cheat, and then leave me with nothing? I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just let her take everything she wanted. I had to fight, but I wasn't sure where to start. I didn't know how to contest a will or stop her from claiming the house and my retirement savings. All I knew was that I was furious, more than furious. I was betrayed and humiliated. I'd trusted her, loved her, built my life around her, and she'd thrown it all away with her lies and her affair. Now I was left standing here, angry, hurt, and determined to fight back. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. I will not let her or Mark walk away with everything I worked for. I'll find a way to take back what's mine, no matter how dirty the fight gets. After I found the will, everything changed. I realized my wife, Sarah, had been planning her exit for a while, probably since she started screwing Mark behind my back. That moment, holding that document, felt like the floor had been pulled out from under me. All those years, all the promises, and she was just using me. The house, the retirement, everything I'd worked for, she was trying to steal it all. And Mark, he was her new golden ticket, a way to secure her future with a fat paycheck and a fancy new life. I couldn't let that happen. I started digging deeper. I needed proof, concrete proof, that she was trying to cheat me out of my rights. I knew she'd lawyer up fast if I went straight to her, so I decided to get ahead of her. I hired a private investigator. I didn't want to believe she was capable of such treachery, but I had to see the truth with my own eyes. The PI, a guy named Jeff, was professional, discreet, and thorough. Within a week he had enough evidence, photos, videos, even recordings, that Sarah was actively planning her move, with Mark involved in every step. They'd been meeting secretly, talking about the house, the money, the future. I was stunned. This wasn't just an affair, it was a full-blown conspiracy to screw me over. While Jeff was gathering evidence, I started talking to a lawyer, someone who specialized in estate law and divorce. The lawyer, a guy named, told me that I had a pretty solid case to contest the will, especially since Sarah had kept it hidden and was trying to cut me out of my own assets. But it wouldn't be easy. Mark's name was on the will, and he was clearly the beneficiary. If I wanted to fight, I'd have to prove that Sarah had manipulated the will or that she was planning to leave me for Mark. It was a complicated mess, but I was determined to fight for what was rightfully mine. Meanwhile, Sarah kept up her act of being the perfect, innocent wife, at least on the surface. She'd come home, act like everything was normal, even got me to help her pack some things for a weekend away. I knew better. I saw her sneaking out late at night, her phone constantly buzzing with Mark's messages. I'd catch her hiding her phone, or she'd get defensive if I asked her about her whereabouts. Her attitude was bitchy, dismissive, like I was just an obstacle in her new life. She'd lie straight to my face, say she was working late or meeting friends, but I knew she was with Mark. One night I decided enough was enough. I set up a hidden camera in the living room just to catch her in the act. I didn't want to spy, but I had to be sure. That night I saw her slip out of the house after I'd gone to bed. The next morning I checked the footage. Sure enough, she was sneaking out to meet Mark at a hotel nearby. They kissed, they touched. I saw everything. That was it. I had all the proof I needed to confront her again. When I did confront her, she exploded. She called me paranoid, jealous, insecure. She told me I was ruining her life, that I was just a boring, possessive husband, and that she deserved happiness. Her voice was sharp, her eyes cold. She kept insisting that Mark was just a good friend and that I was overreacting. I told her I knew about the affair, about the will, about her plans to leave me with nothing. Everything, but her face told a different story. She was cornered and she knew it. That confrontation was intense. She yelled, called me a controlling bastard, said I was just insecure because I wasn't enough for her anymore. She threw in my face all her complaints, how I didn't listen, how I was too boring, how she needed excitement. But I didn't care about her excuses anymore. I was past caring about her bullshit. All I cared about was stopping her from screwing me out of my rights, from taking my house and my savings. In the days that followed, I kept collecting evidence, talking to my lawyer, and planning my next move. I knew Sarah was planning to leave soon, maybe even file for divorce. And I knew Mark was trying to claim the house, the money, everything. I couldn't let that happen. I had to fight back. I started gathering all our financial documents, bank statements, proof of her affair, and the will. I reached out to a forensic accountant, someone who could track her financial moves, see if she'd been draining accounts or funneling money away. The emotional toll was heavy. I felt betrayed, angry, humiliated, like I'd been played for a fool all these years. I still loved her, I think, but that love was buried under layers of rage and disappointment. I kept asking myself how she could do this, how she could lie so blatantly, cheat so blatantly, and then turn around and act like the victim. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I knew I had to stay calm and focused. I wasn't going down without a fight. Now I'm sitting here, feeling like I'm in a war I didn't sign up for. I don't know how this will end, but I'm determined to protect what's mine. I want to see her lose everything she's trying to steal. I want to make her regret ever crossing me. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I do know I'm not giving up. Not yet. Not without a fight. Once I had all the evidence, I knew I had to act fast. Sarah was planning her move, and I couldn't let her slip away with everything. I started talking to my lawyer again, the estate attorney. He laid out the options clearly: contesting the will, filing for an injunction to prevent her from transferring ownership of the house, and maybe even pursuing fraud charges if I could prove she manipulated the estate. It was a complicated legal maze, but I was ready to fight. I also hired a forensic accountant to dig into her financials, see if she'd been secretly draining accounts or funneling money into her and Mark's names. In the meantime, I kept gathering more evidence: photos, recordings, messages. I found out she'd been secretly transferring money into a joint account she opened under a fake name, probably trying to hide assets. I was furious. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how deep her deception ran. This wasn't just about a cheating wife. It was about a calculated plan to steal everything I had worked for. She was so arrogant, so confident she could get away with it, that she kept lying even when I confronted her with the evidence. One day, I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I called her out in front of her friends, an awkward, tense dinner. I told her I knew everything, that I had proof of her affair and her plans to take my house and savings. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and told everyone I was just jealous and insecure. She kept saying she was tired of my control, that she needed more excitement in her life. That was her way of justifying her cheating, blaming me for her own betrayal. She looked me dead in the eyes and lied through her teeth, claiming Mark was just a business associate, not her lover. I knew better. Her reaction didn't surprise me, but it still hit hard. She was trying to gaslight everyone, make me look like the crazy one. But I had all the recordings, all the messages, all the proof that she'd been lying. I felt a mixture of anger and sadness. I'd loved her once, I really had. But now I saw her for what she was: a manipulative, selfish woman who'd rather lie and cheat than face the truth. I realized I'd been blind for years, ignoring the signs because I wanted to believe in us. I also started to think about the house. It was our family home, the place I'd poured my heart into. Now she was trying to claim it through her new will, leaving me with nothing. I contacted a property lawyer to see what options I had. It turned out I could file a legal claim to stay in the house, at least until the estate dispute was resolved. I also found out I might have grounds to challenge the will on grounds of undue influence or fraud, especially since she'd kept it hidden from me and was planning to leave me out. Meanwhile, Mark was still trying to play it cool, acting like he didn't know anything, but I knew better. I'd seen enough to know he was just as much a part of this scheme as Sarah was. I started to think about how to use that against him legally. I had a feeling that once everything was exposed, he wouldn't be able to walk away scot-free. I wanted him to pay for what he did, taking my wife, my house, my savings. It wasn't just about money anymore, it was about justice. Every day felt like I was angry, hurt, and exhausted. I kept reminding myself that I had to stay strong, stay focused. This wasn't just a fight for my assets, it was a fight to reclaim my dignity. I couldn't let her or Mark destroy everything I'd built. I had to make them pay, not just financially, but emotionally. They thought they could get away with it, but I was determined to see it through. I also reached out to a few close friends, people I trusted, to get advice, to vent. They were supportive, telling me I was doing the right thing. Some told me to be careful, that Sarah was dangerous, that I shouldn't underestimate her. I knew that, but I also knew I couldn't let her walk all over me. I was tired of being the victim. It was time to fight back, and I was going to do whatever it took to win. I've learned that trust is fragile and people can surprise you in the worst ways. I thought I knew Sarah, but now I see her for what she really was: a liar, a manipulator, someone willing to destroy everything just for her own gain. I've got a long road ahead, but I'm not backing down. I've got evidence, I've got a lawyer, and most importantly, I've got the resolve to take back what's mine. After I had all the pieces lined up, I knew I had to act quickly. Sarah was planning her move, maybe even trying to get the house transferred into Mark's name before I could do anything. I couldn't let that happen. I called my lawyer again, this time to file an emergency motion to freeze the house and any assets she was trying to transfer. I also had him start drafting a contest to her will, claiming undue influence and fraud. I told him I wanted everything done as fast as possible because I didn't trust her one bit anymore. While waiting for the legal stuff to go through, I started to prepare myself mentally. I knew Sarah was going to fight hard. She'd always been bitchy, manipulative, and good at lying her way out of trouble. I could see her trying to spin this whole thing, making herself the victim, accusing me of trying to control her. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I had enough evidence, enough reasons to fight back. I also made sure to document everything, save every message, take screenshots of bank transfers, record conversations when I could. I knew these would be critical later. One evening, I caught her sneaking her phone out of her purse again. I couldn't take it anymore, so I confronted her directly. I told her I knew about her affair with Mark, about the will, about her plans to leave me with nothing. Her response was classic Sarah. She got defensive, started crying, and then turned on. The tears. She said I was just insecure, that I was controlling, and that she needed to find herself. She said she loved me but needed more excitement. That was her favorite line, like cheating and lying were just part of her search for happiness. I didn't buy it. I told her I had enough and I'd be fighting for what's mine. The next day, I went to see a property lawyer to get some advice about the house. It turned out I had a good shot at staying in it, at least until the legal battle was over, because she couldn't just kick me out without a court order. I also learned about the possibility of challenging the will based on her manipulation. The lawyer warned me I'd need to be patient, that these cases could take months, but he assured me I had a fighting chance. Meanwhile, Sarah was trying to keep up her act of being the innocent wife. She started acting even more bitchy, snapping at me over small things, trying to make me feel guilty. She'd say I was overreacting, that I was just jealous of Mark, that I was trying to control her life. But I saw right through her lies now. Every time she snapped, I just kept my cool. I knew I had the evidence, and I knew she was trying to manipulate everyone around her. One day, I decided to go on the offensive. I reached out to a friend who was a private investigator, just to see if there was anything I'd missed. He confirmed what I already knew. Sarah was planning her escape, and Mark was right in the middle of it. The Pi told me about her secret bank accounts, her plans to transfer the house, and even her attempts to hide money. It made me angrier. How could she do this? How could she betray everything we built together? The emotional toll was getting worse. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and exhausted. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I let her get away with this for so long. I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Now I wasn't sure what love even meant anymore. Was it just a lie? Had I been blind to her true nature all these years? Every night I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to process it all. I also started reaching out to a counselor just to get some perspective. Talking to someone helped. I needed to vent, to get my feelings out in a safe space. She told me I was doing the right thing, that I was fighting for my rights and dignity. I knew she was right, but it didn't make the pain any easier to handle. Every day felt like a battle between my anger, my sadness, and my determination to not let her win. I've come to realize that trust is a fragile thing. Once broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. Sarah shattered ours with her lies, her cheating, her betrayal. But I've also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I'm not going down without a fight. I will stand my ground, fight for my house, my savings, my dignity. Mark might think he's got it all figured out, but I will make sure he pays. I've got the evidence, the legal backing, and the will to do what's necessary. This isn't just about money anymore. It's about justice, about reclaiming my life from someone who tried to destroy it out of selfishness. The legal process was dragging on, and every day I felt like I was in a war I couldn't see the end of. Sarah was doing everything she could to stall, calling her lawyer, trying to threaten me, even throwing in a few tears and accusations of domestic abuse just to get sympathy. I knew her game. She wanted to wear me down, make me doubt myself, and keep her options open. But I wasn't going to fall for it. I had the evidence, I had the law on my side, and I had the resolve to see this through. One afternoon, I finally got a court date for the emergency motion to freeze the house and halt any transfer of assets. I felt a mixture of relief and dread. Relief because I knew I had a fighting chance. Dread because I knew Sarah's manipulative side would come out full force. Sure enough, she showed up in court, looking furious, trying to paint me as the abusive, controlling husband. She spun her story about how I was trying to trap her, how she needed her freedom, and how Mark was just a friend she was trying to help. Her words made me sick. I stood there, calm but firm, presenting all the evidence I had. Her secret bank accounts, the recordings of her meeting Mark at the hotel, the proof of her attempts to transfer the house. The judge listened carefully, and I could see the wheels turning. When I finished, the judge granted the emergency injunction, freezing the house and halting any transfer of assets until the full hearing could be scheduled. That was a huge win for me, but I knew it wasn't over yet. In the aftermath, Sarah went into full damage control mode. She started spreading rumors, calling me a psycho, a controlling maniac who was just jealous of her success. She tried to turn our friends and family against me, claiming I was violent and unstable. But I had the evidence, her texts, her lies, her secret accounts, and I kept everything documented. I knew she was desperate, and I had to stay one step ahead. Meanwhile, Mark was still trying to play it cool, but I had my eyes on him. I hired a private investigator to dig into his background, see if he had any shady dealings or debts. I wanted to make sure I had leverage if it came down to it. The pie uncovered some interesting stuff. Mark had a few unpaid loans, some questionable business dealings, and a history of shady financial moves. That gave me more ammunition to challenge him legally if needed. The emotional toll was worse than I expected. Every day I was battling feelings of betrayal, sadness, and rage. I'd loved Sarah once, and it hurt to realize she'd been lying to me for so long. It felt like my entire life was a lie, built on false promises and empty words. I was angry at her, but I was also angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. How could I have missed all the signs? How could I have been so blind? Through all this, I kept telling myself I had to stay strong. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. I started to focus on my own healing, talked to a therapist, reconnected with friends, and tried to rebuild my sense of self. I knew I'd come out of this battered, but I also knew I'd be stronger. I was determined not to let her or Mark destroy what I'd worked so hard for. The hardest part was imagining what the future would look like. Would I get my house back? Would I be able to keep my retirement savings? Could I really fight her and Mark off, or was I just delaying the inevitable? Every day brought new questions, but I refused to give up. I was tired, yes, but I also had a fire inside me now, something I never knew I had before. I'd fight for my rights, for justice, for dignity. I'd make sure they paid for what they did, one way or another. Looking back, I realize how much I've learned about trust, about betrayal, about strength. I've learned that some people are willing to do anything for money and convenience, even destroy the people they're supposed to love. But I've also learned that I'm capable of standing up for myself, even in the darkest moments. And I know I won't stop fighting until I get what's rightfully mine, no matter how long it takes. The months that followed were a blur of court dates, legal battles, and endless stress. Sarah's attempts to manipulate the system kept coming, but each time I had new evidence to counter her lies. I watched as her carefully crafted facade crumbled under the weight of the truth. Mark's attempts to claim the house and my savings were met with legal pushback, and I could see the desperation growing in her eyes. It was almost satisfying. The justice I'd fought so hard for was slowly catching up to her. Finally, after a long, grueling process, the judge ruled in my favor. The court declared that Sarah had manipulated the will and that her actions constituted fraud. The house was awarded to me, and her claim to the retirement savings was. Mark was ordered to return the money he had received from the estate, and the will was declared invalid. It felt like a huge weight had been lifted, but the scars of betrayal still lingered. Looking back, I realize how much I've changed. I went from a man who trusted blindly to someone who learned the hard way that sometimes you have to fight tooth and nail to protect what's yours. The love I once had for Sarah is now replaced with a bitter sense of loss and a cautious awareness of how fragile trust can be. I've come to understand that betrayal can come from the people you least expect, and that sometimes the only way to truly move on is to face the pain head-on and fight for your future. The aftermath has been a mix of relief and reflection. I've started rebuilding my life, selling the house, moving into a new place, and focusing on my career and well-being. I've also made peace with the fact that some relationships aren't meant to last, no matter how much you want them to. The betrayal taught me that self-respect and standing up for what's right are more important than ever. There's a strange sense of clarity now. I know I'll never fully forget what happened, but I've learned to forgive myself for trusting too easily and to be more cautious with the people I let into my life. I hope others can learn from my experience. Never ignore the signs, trust your instincts, and don't be afraid to fight for what's right, even when it feels impossible. Sometimes, the only way to reclaim your life is to stand tall, confront the lies, and refuse to be a victim. In the end, I'm grateful for the lessons, hard as they were, to protect myself better moving forward. And I'm finally ready to let go of the past and focus on building a future that's truly mine. I've been broken, betrayed, and pushed to the edge, but I survived. That's what matters.